We got a little draw that runs up kind of to the top of the ridge and then comes down, and we got a pretty good sized rub on this tree, just kind of going along with the draw headed down to the creek. There's a creek crossing down there, and some kind of big scat, and so I just kind of worked it back up this way. And so it looks like, at this time, of course, the rubs on this side, you can probably assume they were headed down toward the creek that way. So just doing a little scouting. Still doing a little more scouting. You can see here on this how it's kind of been browsed down. I don't know if it'll focus, but you can see where that's been browsed down last season, and the new growth is starting to come up. And I'm headed, that's why I was headed back down close to the creek. And you got here, you got some, that's pretty good sized scat. And so there's some along down through here. Here's some more. That's fairly good size. So we know it's probably a big body deer, maybe an older deer. And then you can see this where it was browsed down. So last year we didn't have any acorns, and so a lot of the browse, they seem like they utilized it a little more than they typically do. And that rub, it's up above me, and so we'll keep looking. But a lot of the sign to kind of look for in the woods is not necessarily the big obvious sign, the rubs and the scrape, but this browse, that'll tell you what can sustain deer when the acorns are not always there. There's water nearby, and two, just tracks. I know it's hard to see right now, but once you kind of get used to doing it and you see a lot, you can kind of tell where deer tracks are pressed into the leaves and things. And so there are some in here, and there's some big tracks too, and those don't lie. You got a big bodied deer when you find some of those. So keep looking. Historical rubs are important to me. Here's another rub. You notice it's shorter on the tree. The other one was up higher to the handle of my stick, but this one's short on the tree, but at the same time that draw is right over there, and this is kind of almost like a little flat on top of a point going down to the creek. And so a buck was here at some point, looks like a few seasons ago, but at the same token, you're looking at this and you look up and you see that snapped off, that snapped off, that snapped off, that snapped off. So it tells me, he might have been rubbing right there, but when he's coming up, those tines were knocking off those other limbs. So it is a shorter rub, but all these little twigs up above it are snapped off almost at the base. So he either had some tall tines, or he reached up and broke them limbs off. But historical rubs, I definitely take note of them. That means that a buck thought this was a good area at some point in the past, and there's a chance that another one will think it's a good area too. So you're always just looking for pieces of the puzzle. I found that big scat on the other side of the creek, found the creek crossing, crossed the creek, started coming up the draw, found some more big rubs, went all the way up to the top of the ridge, found some more big rubs, and this little flat area here got this decent rub with the twigs broke off up higher. And I saw it from a distance, and it was last season, I started carrying these little binoculars, and I don't carry binoculars anymore. This is just a little 8x25 Vortex Solo binocular. I think it's the cheapest one they make, but it's handy. I saw it from a distance, and I didn't know if that was a rub or just where a tree was dying. So I pulled up my binocular, looked. It was a rub, so I came over to check it out, and that's a decent little rub, and I'll definitely keep it in mind trying to figure out where to go this fall. All right, so I've been working this draw. I want to, know if that buck's, if he's using it vertical, if he's coming up and down, if he's cutting it, if he's crossing it. And we had the rub right over there. It's probably 50 yards over there. So come back over here, checking and see, what we got. This is crossing the draw. And right here we got a little, it's hard to tell, but right here we got a trail crossing the draw and coming up through here, and then it kind of disperses out. A lot of times in the forest, I don't think they use defined trails all the time. I think they use areas, and then when they get to certain areas, the terrain or things kind of funnel them down to a more specific area. But so obviously there's something crossing right here, and you just got to learn over time and looking too. Is it small game? Is it small game crossing right there and working and making these little trails? That just comes into, reading tracks and being able to see. But I think it's both. I think it's small game. I also think that buck's crossing here sometimes too. So, but just takes a little experience, just trial and error to learn to decipher whether it's small game trails, or if it's actual deer. When it's a lot of leaf litter, it's kind of hard. You can scrape back and then come back and check and see, or you can put cameras out. Here's another decent rub. It's kind of on the same elevation line on the side of the ridge. I just followed that trail that was crossing the draw, started following it, and I don't think they necessarily walk the same trail every day, but they might, vary off of it some. But this is along kind of the same elevation line, and there's just a little faint trail, coming through here, and it's another rub, and looks like it's an old rub, probably several seasons ago, but same kind of theme, headed up. So the thing is, there's white oaks kind of dispersed through these pines, and usually our scrapes around here are on beech trees typically. I've seen some on holly, kind of like holly bushes, and some mountain laurel. You also have them on different trees, but predominantly it's beech trees from what I'm finding. But my thought was to come up that draw and then cross it. If he's using that draw in the mornings, by the time the sun starts hitting over here, it'll warm up and start kind of wanting to pull up this way, pull up the ridge. And so my thought is to get on this side of the draw as far as I can to where he can't see me get up a tree. And there's a white oak right here. I need to check and see if it's gonna have acorns on it, see if I can. But the thought would be to climb somewhere on this side as far as I could, or close as I could, to where he can't see me get up the tree, and not have my wind mess me up. So that's what I'm trying to do.